Hey y'all, and welcome to Brawl. My name is Brian, and Kari Lake has just had enough. She is fed up with these ridiculous questions from Socialist Squad member Jayapal. The last word, however, is the best line here. Let's dive in.
The U.S. Agency for Global Media is tasked with providing unbiased news worldwide to over 427 million listeners, many of whom live in countries without freedom of press or freedom of the speech. And it is your job to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy. So I wanted to start just by confirming, do you support democracy or authoritarianism?
I think that's pretty obvious. I support freedom and democracy.
Democracy. Great. Would you agree that accepting the results of a fair and free election are critical to a functioning democracy?
Would you agree that standing up and cheering for a cancer survivor would have been the nice thing to do?
Ms. Lake, this is my time.
Okay.
Would you accept that accepting the results of a free and fair election are critical to a functioning democracy? It's a yes or no question. Do you think it's essential for democracy to have a free and fair election?
We need free and fair elections.
Free and fair elections, great.
Thank
Thank you so much. And yet, you have, to this day, refused to acknowledge that President Trump lost the 2020 election, something that even members of President Trump's own Justice Department have admitted and multiple lawsuits have shown. And we heard my colleague from Arizona talk about what happened in Arizona. So it concerns me that you are now tasked with this responsibility of ensuring democracy around the world when you won't even accept a free and fair election. I'm also concerned by your ability to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy, given your record defending and praising dictators. Let's look at Hungary. You previously stated that Hungary is, quote, doing it right, and that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was, quote, the greatest in America, greatest in caps, and, quote, and equal to President Trump. Do you stand by those statements?
I think that Viktor Orban has done a very good job at protecting his people and protecting the Hungarian culture.
And so,
I think
Ms. Lake,
if you ask people in Europe, other parts of Europe,
the question here is very simple.
They would be wishing that their leaders stood up for their people.
Is Viktor Orban the greatest in Europe? Yes or no?
I think he's done the best job in Europe, yes.
Okay, and so even Secretary Rubio acknowledged in a 2019 letter that under Orban, Hungary took a downward democratic trajectory, and yet you insist that Hungary is doing it right. I want to cover some of the policies that Mr. Orban is responsible for. Would you consider banning LGBTQ pride parades like Viktor Orban has done in Hungary as doing it right, recognizing that pride parades are protected under the First Amendment?
What does this have to do with the U.S. Agency for Global Media?
I'm asking you whether you support the policies of dictators and authoritarians or whether you support democracy. You have said that Viktor Orban is the greatest in Europe. So do you think that Viktor Orban is doing it right when he bans pride parades?
I think Viktor Orban has put the people of his country first.
So the answer is yes, you think it's appropriate that he's banning pride parades and using facial recognition technology to actually profile people that go to those parades? How about the fact that Orban and his party control 80% of Hungary's media market?
Are we here talking about Hungary?
Yes, we are, because guess what? Your agency actually is responsible for other countries
Hungary
and
is
unbiased
an ally.
news.
Can I remind you that Hungary is an ally of America?
Oh, and so you think that it's okay that Viktor Orban, the greatest in Europe, according to you, controls 80% of Hungary's media market? Is that level free and fair reporting?
I don't. You obviously don't like our ally Hungary. I think that
I'm
the people have voted for him, and the people of Hungary will decide.
Ms. Lake, it is my time. I'm asking you if it is appropriate that a country, Viktor Orban's government, controls 80% of Hungary's media market. It's just a yes or a no. Do you think that's okay? Think he's the greatest of all time?
I don't have an opinion on what Viktor Orban is doing in Hungary.
It's not up for debate. It's a
he
fact that has been documented by numerous organizations.
By who?
Now,
Can you tell me
only
where
have
that
you
fact come
supported,
from?
not only
Where
have
did
you
that
supported,
fact come
excuse
from,
me, Ms. Lake,
Representative?
I'm sorry to remind you, you are not a governor. You're not even a candidate for governor. You're here, and this is my time. Not only have you supported dictators that have supported policies that erode democracy, you also spread claims promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. These claims have been proven resoundingly false, even by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Do you still stand by that prior
Look,
statement, Ms. Lake?
I know that many members of Congress care more about
Do
funding
you
Ukraine.
stand by that statement,
Order?
which is clearly a lie?
I know that you
You are
voted.
responsible for an agency that is supposed to promote truth, and yet, over and over again, you are promoting dictators and authoritarians and lies. So I am asking you if you stand by the statement that you made that was promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Proven false by Marco Rubio. Do you stand by that
I
statement?
understand you're trying to get a fundraising video here.
Okay,
So
well,
let me
you
help
clearly
make-
don't
let me
understand that
reminding
you
the
are
people-
actually
Time
here
has
before,
expired.
District.
Your time
Congress.
expired,
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Jayapal.
I just want to say
you had
that
more than enough time. I gave you a few extra
I
seconds, and
understand,
your time
and
has expired.
unfortunately,
and I now recognize Representative
Ms. Lake
Davidson.
is not responding
Can
to
I
the
have
questions.
just 1 second to respond? Because who is going to be speaking
Representative
next?
Davidson is next.
Oh, may I have just 1 second to respond to that? Obviously, from some of the questions we're hearing from the Democrats, they care more about a lot of other countries than America.
Thank you, Chairman Mast. That is how you deal with this nonsense. Some chairmen will allow Jayapal to continue on her ridiculous screed for minutes after their allotted time, and when you go into a committee meeting, when you are a sitting member of Congress in a committee, you know what you do? You talk for exactly 5 minutes, right? The Senate might give you a little bit more time, depends on the committee meeting, depends on whoever is the chairman. And Chairman Mast correctly shut down this nonsense as soon as he possibly could, according to the rules. So good for him. And good for Kari Lake. She is answering the questions as best as she can, because why on earth does her current job have anything to do with praising someone like Viktor Orban? What does her past have to do with the present, okay? You should be asking, Ms. Jayapal, is Kari Lake doing her job? But that question never came up. So instead, this became nothing short of a personal attack, a borderline personal assassination here. And Kari Lake is answering the questions perfectly. But you know what? Let's start explaining some of this nonsense. The reason why Viktor Orban has such a prolific understanding of the American right and such a love from the American right is because he has been unusually pro-family and pro-Hungary. To be pro your own country, to be pro your own family is an anomaly in the entirety of the European Union. Furthermore, they don't play the NATO waste wave after wave of Ukrainian troops to wear down the Russians. They don't play that game. They're trying to be the mediators over in that nation and over that terrible conflict. We are essentially using Ukraine as a meat shield. What a disgusting thing. And then to talk about the CIA-backed laboratory bases, no kidding Marco Rubio isn't going to come out and say, well, yes, they were, because we're trying to end this ridiculous war. You don't go around and poke the bear, the literal Russian bear, and say, hey, yeah, you know those labs that you accused us of? We did it. You don't go around admitting that in good company. So Marco Rubio is doing his job here. And then from the 2019 quote about Viktor Orban himself from Rubio, well, guess what? Rubio used to be a never Trumper. He ran against Trump. And then it took that 4-year time span to realize in both Trump's first administration and the Biden administration for him to realize, oh, we can't continue down this normal road. We've got to take a different path. And because he's understood that, and has even admitted the fact that he's been wrong on multiple occasions, that's why he's now our Secretary of State. And he's been doing a phenomenal job. I had the pleasure of raising money for Marco Rubio back in 2022. And in that time, I didn't get to really know the dude because I was doing something from a remote location. But I got to know his speeches, I got to know his patterns, and I got to understand what he actually wanted. Rubio has been wanting the Secretary of State position for a long, long time. And he's been wanting to get out of the Senate in order to take that job. And so it's been a mutually beneficial pact for everyone. And so for Jayapal to come out and talk about this is how Marco Rubio used to think, oh, honey, give me a break. No one is buying that load. And when it comes to Jayapal trying to cast any aspersions on Kari Lake for questioning certain legalities regarding elections, because there were some anomalies in Arizona, there were some big ones in Maricopa County, okay? It's okay to say that there were problems with the way that election was held. When the Attorney General Mark Brnovich, when he was bringing his suit forward against Maricopa County, well, he found quite a few anomalies. Unfortunately, the way the law ruled against him, but the anomalies, there's still a problem in Arizona. Fortunately, Trump won that state. And we're starting to realize how ridiculous the Socialist Squad can get. Now we've got socialists that might win the mayor election of New York City. The Democrats cannot stop themselves. They can't stop sending their worst and their dimmest and their dullest out to our Congress. Jayapal does not care at all about the job that Kari Lake has been given. She does not care about the actual issue that is our debt. She does not care that it was her party that she caucuses with that wanted to lock you down for a full year. She is part of the party that wanted you to have certain passports whether you got the jab. To ask about authoritarian policies, that is not her purview whatsoever. That would make her to be one of the most hypocritical members of Congress. Well, and lo and behold, it does. Representative Jayapal is one of the worst members we constantly have to deal with. And on one hand, that means I get to talk about her. That's great. On the other hand, I have to talk about her. I don't want to do this. I want to focus on actual issues. I want to focus on the state of American media. You know, back in 2020 when the CIA quite literally told Silicon Valley, do not report about the Hunter Biden laptop story. And if anyone does, shut down their post and make sure that they have been ghost banned. What does that mean? That means that there's essentially no one seeing your posts and you aren't given any notification at all about why it's happening. I think Jayapal should get to the bottom of that first, but she can't, she shan't, and she won't. That's what the members of the Socialist Squad do, and that's why so many of them have already been kicked out of Congress. That's also why Kari Lake has been given the job that she currently has, of which, so far, it seems like she's doing a good job. And she's handling herself spectacularly well. And by the way, remember, the MVP of this whole little chapter here is Brian Mast shutting down Jayapal when she goes over the line and over her time. That is a good chairman. That is what you're supposed to do. So hats off to him. Thank you to Kari Lake. And Ms. Jayapal, please come back to the land of reality. The water's fine down here. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Brawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.